We are living in a world of increasing environmental change. The only way to confront these changes is through an educated populace. We have set out to educate, learn, and grow by interacting with our community. The future of our planet lies in the hands of the younger generation in our community. If we are going to leave them with such a burden, it is our responsibility to ensure that they are prepared. Though we cannot decide for them, what we can do is make sure they are informed and educated of the issues awaiting them.
And that's a chemical formula right there. Does anyone want to read that? That was so weird. Tucker?
CO2 grams of
gas. Good guess.
H2O and H2O.
Yeah, so it's saying that carbon dioxide gas plus water is going to create carbonic acid. To kind of understand how acid rain is made, we did 3 simple experiments involving carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and then the nitrogen oxides that are the main pollutants that affect and essentially cause acid rain. Okay, so when you want to get rid of your stuff, bring it up to me. I'll be over in a few minutes.
Acid rain is made by pollution going up into the air and then coming back down in the form of acid rain.
The process of acid rain is when power plants and volcanoes and cars and buildings and cities and all that, when their gases go up in the air, SO2 and NO2, when they mix with water, when they mix in with the clouds, which is water, and then they create sulfuric acid and nitric acid, and when it mixes with water, and then it creates all those acids, and then it rains, and it creates acid rain. It helped me understand that all the gases that mix, and it's not like smoke goes in the air and it turns into acid. The process.
It's time for
Lab Technique!
It is important to wear goggles when dealing with acid and all chemicals in the lab. Without an accidental spray or swipe of your eye, if you contaminate a seed, it can cause an itch or even an infection. Just make sure you never enter a lab without putting on your goggles. Once we have our goggles on, we can learn about all the causes of acid rain in a safe environment.
These young masters learn how acid rain happens. But why is this important?
The second lab that we did was actually 100% student-led, and the students were investigating the effects of acid rain and how acid rain can affect either marble or limestone. And they wrote the procedures completely on their own, and they carried out the experiments completely on their own. And that was just to really kind of visually and conceptually understand what acid rain does to our environment and why it's bad, and sort of like the timeline of how long it takes for us to actually see the effects even though they're happening.
Well, on our experiment, we are talking about how water erodes things, but not as fast as acid or acid rain. So the vinegar and SO2 dissolve the chalk and the marble in there faster than the water does. It can harm many things, but it's not like acid. It's that, like in the cartoon acid, like it hits your hand and like there's a hole burned through it. It doesn't really burn stuff. It erodes things and then it slightly chips away.
I really just wanted the students to see that what they're learning in a textbook applies to the real world. These facts and tests and exams, they're meaningful because they help us understand what's going on around us. Since this is the next generation, this is the people that will be making decisions for the future, it's really important that they actually understand the issues that they'll be voting on. And this is just a small step, and I really hope that every single student, if they take away nothing else, they can see that what they're learning has value.
Acid rain can ruin the environment, erode buildings, make water more acidic so that the underwater life will die, pollute farms, ruin drinking water. It's horrible.
It's time for
Lab technique!
After lab, where you use such chemicals as SO2 and NO2, it's important not to pour them down the drain. Depending on the chemicals, they could react with other solutions in the drain or corrode the piping.
I hate stains.
We've made sure to pour out used chemicals into waste containers to be disposed of later, so that our lab will be clean and ready to use for our next investigation.
Understanding acid rain's causes and repercussions is the first step. This knowledge is only beneficial if we can use it to take action and solve the problems that lie ahead.
There's a lot of different ways to stop acid rain or prevent it, and one of them is taking the sulfur out of air pollution. There's different ways you could do that. You could wash the sulfur out of coal before it's burned, or you could wash the sulfur out of smoke before it goes through smokestacks and gets into the air.
Acid rain is making lakes more acidic, so over the years, people have tried to make those lakes and streams less acidic with limestone powder. They call it liming, and yeah, they've been doing very well.
One of the ways to prevent acid rain is to put in a catalytic converter, which helps the car fumes not have as much carbon dioxide.
Some ways are like you can carpool or take public buses or walk places, and when like there's a room that's open and the lights are on, you can like turn them off, so that'll conserve electricity and power plants.
Well, coming into this, we thought acid rain was green rain that fell and it hit the ground and burned through the atmosphere. Yeah, pretty much.
That's what we thought.
That's what we thought. But
I never knew that acid rain ever existed in my entire life.
This was probably the first time I've heard about acid rain, and now I know a lot about it.
since it's a fairly big thing in other places, and I really never heard of it before, and that was kind of startling because I mean, it's like out there, pretty big thing, and just I had no clue of what it was.
I believe that other people should learn about acid rain.
Visa Sensei has been doing a great job of teaching us. She gives us time. She gives us easy homework, which makes us learn a lot.
And it's always really rewarding as a teacher to teach a younger student something and have them go on to someone else and teach them the very same thing that I taught them. And so I would say the proudest moments I have on this exhibition is when a 4th, 5th grader can go up to a high school student and teach them something about acid rain that they didn't know before.
Because then they could know more, and even if it was just a little, like a little bit of people, then they can still tell more people, and then they can tell more people and more people and more people.
It was very exciting. It was the first time I ever worked with real acid in a real lab.
You're not gonna blow anything up over here?
No.
Okay, good.
I wish.
Hopefully you all do your part to prevent acid rain.
Since the dawn of nuclear chemistry, man has had many misconceptions about nuclear energy. This topic has many questions associated with it. For instance, will radiation harm me? Will it give me superpowers? What can it be used for? Can it solve the energy crisis? And is it green energy? All these questions and more will soon be answered.
To conquer the fear of nuclear energy, we set out to interview people in our community about their misconceptions concerning nuclear energy, then educate them and hopefully give the people a well-rounded, accurate knowledge of nuclear power. After this process, we can conclude whether a more educated populace concerning nuclear energy will lead to different options. Ask you a few questions about nuclear energy?
Nope.
Mind if I ask you a few questions about nuclear energy?
Ed and I haven't even had a chance to look at it here at the department for hi. Well, all day yesterday and today. So yeah.
What is the first thought that pops into your head when someone says nuclear energy?
50,000 year half-life of the nuclear waste.
New technologies.
Nuclear power for war.
Maybe lots of power.
What are your thoughts or opinions on nuclear energy?
I have mixed feelings. I think there's nothing free in the world, so there's a cost to everything. So there's a lot of potential, but with a lot of potential comes maybe bigger downsides too.
It's not safe. They've made us a promise back in the 60s and 70s when I was a kid that certainly by the time the age I am now, which is 59, that we would have solved all those problems with nuclear waste. We haven't solved any yet. We're still talking about burying it under a mountain or putting it in barrels at the bottom of the ocean. I mean, just ridiculous. We haven't done anything to come up with a way of making it safe.
You know, I don't know that much about it, so I really don't have a good opinion on it.
And would you say that you have any fear about nuclear energy, and if so, why?
I would say yes, some fear because of previous terms like nuclear bombs.
I wouldn't say I'm particularly scared of it. You know, the meltdown in Japan or something, that doesn't scare me. You know, that doesn't. I don't think necessarily that we should stop using it or anything like that.
I don't really have a fear of it, but I really don't know that much about it either.
I think we're much safer today because we're not covered. Our country isn't dependent on nuclear plants. I mean, I grew up with all that. 3 Mile Island, the California one that was built on the fault line, Chernobyl. Boy, you don't have to give me any more evidence that until we figure this thing out, we don't need to be doing this.
How many nuclear power plants do you think there are in the U.S.?
In the U.S.?
Any idea? Give a guess.
100.
100? Okay.
I actually don't have any idea.
Some have shut down, probably in the whole nation. Maybe there's 50, 70 plants running.
So now I'm going to give you a little spiel about what nuclear power is.
Okay.
So,
there are over 60 nuclear power plants in the U.S. alone. Nuclear energy is one of the most clean and stable power sources in the world. But we've been talking about all this nuclear energy, but in all actuality, what is it? Well, nuclear energy is when you take an atom. In nuclear plants, this is usually uranium or plutonium, and split it up into smaller pieces. This process is called fission. Due to the splitting, the atom will give off an enormous amount of energy, in addition to 2 or 3 neutrons. This energy is exerted in the form of heat, which is used to heat water and create steam. This steam is then used to power turbines, similarly to other forms of energy facilities. In today's world, the topic of nuclear energy is closely associated with the energy crisis. The energy crisis is the potential lack of oil and coal in the future, the environmental issues created by the use of coal and oil, and the fact that the wind power and hydroelectric power will have difficulty closing the gap left by the lack of oil and coal. As a result, nuclear energy could potentially be a solution to this energy crisis. Many people have the misconception that all types of nuclear energy are dangerous. In actuality, nuclear energy is most often only dangerous when a person digests or is directly exposed to an immense amount of radiation. Everyday people are exposed to natural causes of radiation, such as the sun or large deposits of natural iron ore in the ground. Having an X-ray and eating bananas are also some common daily exposures to some form of radiation. Overall, however, because of the great fear surrounding nuclear energy, nuclear plants are highly regulated, making them not extremely dangerous. In addition, nuclear energy is nearly completely sustainable. While it isn't infinite, the ratio of energy to fuel is almost inconceivable, the highest of all practical fuels. When it's considered that a large amount of this fuel can be recycled, we have an energy source that could be used to power the entire nation. Solar, wind, and hydraulic can't hold a candle to nuclear energy in terms of production or density. Even though nuclear energy could potentially help solve the energy crisis, there are some aspects of nuclear energy that the general populace should take into consideration before making any hasty decisions. Nuclear energy has the lowest emissions of greenhouse gases or other harmful gases, but there is a large amount of toxic waste produced from it. The waste from nuclear energy takes 240,000 years to break down, and a solution for it to break down faster or how to dispose of it has not been found out yet. In the meantime, a great deal of toxic waste has been insufficiently stored and has occasionally leaked into the environment. Solutions to storing this waste need to be found very soon to stop the environmental hazards that toxic waste can pose. In conclusion, because of its availability and efficiency, nuclear energy could help solve the energy crisis, but the populace must realize that further steps must be taken to make nuclear energy safer and cleaner for both humans and the environment.
Now, with some more information to back their opinions on nuclear power, we went back to see how our interviewees felt.
I had an insight now on how a facility would work and the safety protocols that make me feel safer.
I actually learned a little about safety features that's really important from a fire department standpoint. You know, if we had a plant here, that's something that I like that there's strict safety features already built in.
The time it takes for a fuel pellet to break down, it's a lot of years, but it yields so much more energy.
I think there's a possibility that it could solve our energy crisis.
I think I'd have a hard time living without cheap electricity. I think we're spoiled. I think it's hard to go back. And I think long term, with more and more people in the world, it's going to be hard to give people electricity without nuclear power.
If we're only talking about supplying power, then nuclear energy would have been the answer decades ago. But that's not the whole picture.
I think in the perfect world you wouldn't have to use it. You'd have solar and wind and that'd be it, but that's not realistic, so.
And when the nuclear power becomes clean, the whole picture has to look clean. Not just you and I getting cheap power.
Though opinions didn't drastically change one way or the other, we feel that we have been successful in educating our community about the potentials of nuclear power in regards to the energy crisis.
As a challenge, our group will be going around the Sheridan community to collect enough vegetable oil to run a small lawnmower. While we attempt to collect our oil, we will inform the community about the potential of biodiesel. Does everyone want me to talk, or do you guys want to talk?
I think I got it.
You want to talk?
Yeah.
Cool.
I like talking.
Does that place have?
They deep fry everything in that case, so I would assume that they have a deep fryer somewhere in their facility.
Where we go? You guys have any vegetable oil?
Vegetable? Yes, we do.
Use it because we're making biodiesel for our school, and we're going to run a little engine.
Yeah, you can come back.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Biodiesel was invented in the 1980s by Rudolf Diesel. It was used to power our agriculture vehicles when petroleum was hard to get, or when there was no petroleum. Biodiesel was actually invented before petroleum, and it was very popular for a few years. As petroleum became more widely available, people began using it more than the expensive biodiesel, and it soon became a much less permanent fuel source. So, is biodiesel a better alternative? Today we will find out.
I'm Sheridan from Sheridan Japanese School, and this is some used vegetables for a science experiment on a small
Be down on aisle, I think aisle 6, you might find some. Let me call my manager first.
Okay.
We don't have any because we sell our oil to a farmer and he uses it for gas.
Oh.
So we wanted to do it. Excellent. Well, thank you.
Thank you. One yes, one no. It's a good start. Guys, there are people inside enjoying their lunch or dinner or whatever it is they're eating at this hour, so could we please be respectful when we go inside? Thank you.
I'm Shanti, and we're all from the Sheridan Japanese School. We're doing baking biodiesel as a science experiment, and we were wondering if you have any used vegetable oil that you could donate to us.
Okay, so you want the dirty oil. How many you want? Let me go ask. Yeah, wait a second.
或者要放隻叫嗰個或者咧要或者要拉威哦，或者你叫入，唔好話佢仲要講我裏邊咁嘅啫。
有啊，食你有嚟蒸嘅呢個，可以放啲上锅的，the oil is by the door. Yeah, this is gonna pick up over there. Okay, you're welcome.
Oh wow, that is a lot. That looks beautiful. Okay, well,
it smells real
and
nice.
it smells great too.
So we're gonna need a siphon and a container to put it in. So we're gonna have to run back to SJS and get a siphon. If we do it that way, we're gonna have to suck the long hose.
I also get. I say we go to the green front. Yeah, it's not going in.
Okay.
We can get some potatoes and beans for
No,
home.
It's on the top.
Okay.
Good to go.
I don't think it's gonna work. Where else are we gonna ask?
Asabuches. And then the green frogs.
Where are you going to get your cars?
Hi, I'm Shanti, and we're all here from the Sheridan Japanese School. And we were wondering if you have any used vegetable oil that we may use for a science project.
Well, do you guys want one in the back? And then I'll eat.
I thought we were gonna get it. That is a lot of oil.
That's some good stuff. Oh my gosh. This is so much, it's so heavy. It's so oily. You might want to leave that one. If you look, it's got a lot of solid deposits in it, so it's mostly going to be not useful, but that one looks really useful. We won that!
Yeah! We got the used vegetable oil, as much as they can offer us, from the center market. And then we got some from Asabachi's. We got a whole gigantic gallon container thing, even more than a gallon. And I think it would be enough to make biodiesel to run a small engine. So let's go to school and make some. Beware the dangers.
What are you doing with that?
With this oil, we are going to make biodiesel for a science project. And it's going to be used to run a mower, a lawnmower.
Why don't you use gas? Oh, because it's bad for the environment. You don't have no much.
It smells like French fries.
Really rotten French fries.
Disgusting. All right.
Hopefully there's enough oil to mow the lawn.
There's only one way to find out. Let's make some biodiesel! Biodiesel is very simple to make because you don't need a lot of machines or dangerous chemicals. All you need is some oil that we got from communities around Sheridan, some sodium hydroxide, and ethanol, most commonly known as Everclear. When you mix the sodium hydroxide and the ethanol together, it goes through a process called transesterification, where a reaction between a triglyceride and an alcohol causes a chemical trade to take place. After the sodium hydroxide has dissolved completely, it can be poured into the oil, and then you let it sit overnight, and then voila, it's done.
benefits are that biodiesel is much easier to make than petroleum diesel, and it can be made with no pollution to the environment. Biodiesel a better alternative? It is readily available, cheap to produce, and works just as well as petroleum diesel. But be careful not to use it without approval, and make sure you make it in a safe environment. All signs point to yes. Woo!
Hopefully, by involving our community in various projects, we have helped to diversify the available knowledge about relevant topics to our changing world. With the knowledge you are now equipped with, such as the seriousness of the impending energy crisis, pollution caused by petroleum fuels, and the threat of acid rain, and the importance of finding alternative solutions such as biodiesel and nuclear energy, hopefully you will go and do your part in maintaining a clean and healthy community.